Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Dr. Tim Ursiny, who is the founder of Advantage Coaching and Training, and he's going to be talking with us today about helping people reach peak performance. Dr. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I love the concept of peak performance because I follow all the greats, in the past, the Jim Rohns and the Tony Robbins, and you named the list, and I just love that concept of bettering ourselves so that other areas of our lives will rise along with that tide. So I want to really dive into this and learn from what some of your teachings, but give us a little bit of a background. What led you to found your company, Advantage Coaching? What is your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So by training, I'm actually a clinical psychologist. And I did private practice for about 7 years. Enjoyed that, but pretty much burnt out on that model. And 22 years ago, I met someone who called herself a coach. And as I explored that and what that really meant, I said, that's it. It uses all the psychology skills, but it's very positive focus. It's very goal-oriented, which I am also. It sees the best in people. And other things are blocks getting in their way. And so 22 years ago, I fell in love with coaching and said, that's the direction I want to go.
And back then, you were probably going, what do you mean? Coaching what?
Right.
And it really wasn't a thing like the life coaching or the business coaching like it is now. What kind of got you over the hump of actually understanding that it actually is a thing?
Well, I actually got it immediately. It was harder to get prospects and clients to get it.
Yeah.
So whenever I said I'm a coach, they'd always look at me and say, what sport?
Yep.
And Mike, if you could see me, that's not a question you would ask me. It's like, well, to clarify that. And so we'd use analogies like, it's like a personal trainer at the gym and that helps you hone your body to your best and that type of thing. But yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges the first couple of years of business is really getting people to see what is that? What is coaching?
Yeah. So let's kind of shift now into what is this personal development. What do you find? I'm confident that if we Googled, personal development tips, we'd find 10 trillion submissions on Google about everyone's perspective of personal development. What do you find that is, your flavor, your spin, and your kind of taking it to the next level on peak performance and personal development?
Yeah, so usually, when I'm looking or doing a deep discovery with a prospect or client or looking at someone, I look at 5 different areas. So I look at their mental life. What's their self-talk like? Are they shaming themselves? Do they put themselves down? Are they focused in their mental life, et cetera? So, how's their mental energy? Then I look at emotional energy. Are they living with a positive attitude? Are they experiencing life, and is their emotional life in good shape? Then look at their relational situations. Are they loved? Are they connected with people? Are they having good social, encouraging activities? And then behavioral. What are they doing? Are they active? Are their behaviors matching who they are and what they want to create for their lives, et cetera? And then the 5th area is just their spiritual life. Are they honoring their identity? Are they living with integrity? Are they utilizing all their talents in this world? So, yeah, mental, emotional, relational, behavioral, and spiritual are really the 5 areas I look at when I'm working with people on are they maximizing who they are and who they want to be.
Yeah, when you were describing that, the thought came to mind of the 3-legged stool. And I know you described 5, not 3, but the principle I would suspect would still apply, which is if any one of those legs are not as sturdy as the others, or, the weakest link, you're only as strong as the weakest link. So what do you advise your clients when you lay that out? Because you need to do the old Jim Rohn, begin with the end in mind. Here's what we're going to focus on, but don't worry. You started that journey of 1,000 miles with the first step, we're not going to, try to make all of the changes in 1 week or 1 day. What do you do with clients that say, I think I need to improve in all these areas, of course, but I feel overwhelmed?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike, because, you can overload someone with self-improvement too.
Yeah.
And then that just results in them feeling shamed and guilty that they're not making the progress that they want to make. So every time we do an initial first coaching session, my favorite question is, what does success look like? Okay,
Yeah.
and in our coaching together, what does success look like? How we know it's going to be worth your money, be worth your time and your effort? What will we see at the end of this engagement? So that's the starting point for me with the client, of the vision of where we're going. And then it's backtracking from that and prioritizing the different areas. So, for example, in a first session, I wouldn't hit all 5 areas I just mentioned. It'd really be doing more of an assessment of, okay, where are they strong?
Yeah.
Which of the 5, and this is in my head, which of the 5 are they doing really well, and where might be the weak links or where the block's getting in their way. And so part of that first session is not just setting the goals of coaching and what success looks like, but let's prioritize what we're going to tackle. Now, everything's customized, so sometimes in session 5 they want to switch the priority to hit something because it's urgent, and that's okay. But we never lose sight of the goal and making sure that we're doing doable chunks. Like, you don't want a coachee to leave your session with 10 action steps to complete by
Right.
next time. That's just going to overwhelm them, and again, that's working against that picture of success.
And I would also venture to say that there's a certain level of goal setting within those areas that you would
Yes.
you would lay out and work with them on. It seems like every time that we talk about or think about goal setting, you hear, SMART goals and this, this or that, let's set these goals with, high achievement and things like that. And I want to get your opinion on this, because it's something that I feel like it makes a whole lot of sense, which is you can set your goals too high. And I know that the people out there will go, well, if you don't set them high enough, then, well, here's the problem. If you made $40,000 last year and you set that reach goal for $4 million and you don't believe it, you don't feel it's feasible. So what do you work with your clients on when you're working these 5 areas on setting these achievable but yet stretch, in a sense that we don't want to, if you made 40,000 next year, you shouldn't have a goal of making 41,000, but what is your approach on that goal setting?
Yeah, often we'll have them set 2 goals. The ideal goal, that's the stretch. If we kick it, if something amazing happens and we just hit everything on all cylinders, that's the goal I'm going for. And then we also set a good enough goal. Yeah. What's the goal that I'd reach to that, I'd still feel good about myself? I'd say, man, I did it. So the stretch goal is there to inspire them. The good enough goal is there so they don't get discouraged if they don't meet that crazy goal. But, the other thing, all the psychological research shows, and this is a critical part in coaching, in my opinion, is when someone's trying to change a habit, trying to change something that's been around for a long time or something ingrained, you have to focus much more on their progress than on their imperfection.
Oh, yeah.
So, say a coach sets a sales goal of 10 outgoing calls a day or whatever, and they come back to the next coaching session, they'll often say, well, I didn't do my action step. I said, well, tell me about it. What did you do? Well, I only did 3 calls a day. I said, okay, so that's 2 more calls than you have been doing.
Yeah.
So, high five, fantastic. We did the baby step. We're making progress. And again, if we just focus on, well, you only did 3 and you're supposed to do 10, and we focus on the imperfection, it just kills the confidence, it kills the mojo, it kills the momentum. So, yeah, we set the ideal goal and the good enough goal, but then during the process, Mike, praise every baby step forward.
Yeah.
That gets better results.
Now, when you say praise every baby step, are you speaking as the leader praising someone on his team, someone like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it would be the coach, of course, praising the coachee in a coaching session, but, I do a lot of leadership training, and it's one of the things I talk to leaders about all the time, and especially those that are very, more dominant and driven, and the tendency is they keep picking on the imperfections. I'm saying, if you want results, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about touchy-feely stuff. We're talking about getting results. You will get better results if you praise the progress of your people. It doesn't mean you never mention the imperfection of where they need to go. And once they master it, then it's not important. It's not as important because they know they're good at it. They have the confidence. They don't need you to praise them. But absolutely encourage leaders when they're trying to get someone to change or grow, you have to praise progress.
And what about praising progress for the little micro wins for yourself? Because let's say that someone doesn't have a coach or you doesn't have a mentor leader in their organization, but you set some goals for yourself. Shouldn't there be a time where you say, okay, when I get this one step closer to my goal, I'm going to reward myself with whatever it is. I'm going to go get myself a cup of coffee, or I'm going to sit down, whatever that it is, but kind of like keeping track and score and metrics and gamification for yourself.
Yeah, well, in the end, I can praise someone all day if they don't believe it.
Yeah.
If they're not praising themselves, if they're not getting themselves credit, then my praise really doesn't mean that much. And so, yeah, that is the ultimate goal. Sometimes you need to start with someone by giving it external, but the ultimate goal is to get them to start doing it. So, the victory in a coaching session is, after we've done this for a while, next time they didn't do it perfectly, they come back and say, well, I only did 7 out of the 10, but you know what? That's progress from last week, and it's even better if they're saying it to themselves. So that's the ultimate goal, is to get them, and that's one of the mental strategies. If they're picking on themselves all the time, if they're guilting themselves all the time, then all the external, high fives in the world are going to do nothing. They have to learn to do that for themselves too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what are you finding when you start working with an organization? What is the most common place in these 5 areas that you are starting with? Does it change every time, or are you going in going, okay, I'm watching for this one because typically this is where we're going to need to start with?
Yeah, it depends on the personality of the person or the group that you're working with. But I'd say mental is probably the fallback.
Okay.
What someone's saying to themselves, what's their perspective on the world. That's probably the first place that I would tend to go with someone. And for some personalities, like going to spiritual too quickly is too intimate. Right? Yeah. That's you got to earn the right to go there, or to go emotionally is a little too intimate. So you have to earn the right. So I'd say behavioral and mental probably first. Relational comes in pretty soon after, and emotional and spiritual you earn in the relationship.
And when you start working with someone in one of these areas, do you find that they kind of quickly jump to a conclusion that they think you're going to go to, and you find like, no, what we need to focus on is this, but that preconceived assumption, and then that married with the fact that they think, oh, no, I'm good on this because, and you go, but did you consider this? And then they go, ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, the style is really much more of a partnering of we're deciding this together.
Yeah.
And there are times when I present a couple of these and say, hey, these are 3 different ways we could focus on this. What makes the most sense to you? So, the best way is if I have their buy-in. So if my client and I can decide together, okay, that makes a lot of sense that we focus on that and don't focus on that. So I guess I've found very few occasions where it's no, we need to do this. It's much more, okay, let's figure this out together. What makes sense? And it's one of the things I like about coaching more than therapy. Therapy was a little bit more, at least how I was trained, a little bit more hierarchical. Like you're the mentally healthy one, and you're helping someone else getting more mental. And if you knew most therapists, you might question that, because we're all quirky. We went into psychology for a reason. We're trying to either heal ourselves or our families usually. And so coaching I like much better. It's much more of a partnering. We're in this together. Let's decide together. We don't hide our thoughts or, clients. I'm never going to hold off on an opinion or a thought or an impression I have about them. I can just lay it out with them, and it's really a much more of a mutual decision making than a one-sided. If you're a consultant, that tends to be you telling someone what to do. As a coach, we're kind of co-creating it together. I'll have expertise I'll bring in, but they're part of forming that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And at what point also do you bring in outside experts? So if you're working with an organization and it's you, yourself, and you working with them, do you ever partner with other people that then kind of bring in their area of expertise as well?
Yeah, so again, if it's a coaching arrangement, you're more helping them find those resources. Now that said, I do a lot of work in like financial services, and there are areas where I shine there, and there are areas I'm not the best coach or I'm not the best consultant. Like when it comes to more logistical things, there's someone who wants to get in a detailed client contact process, but they want someone presenting models to them. That's an example where I would refer them to a different type of consultant. So I think any coach or consultant that thinks they can be everything to all people is really a little full of themselves, and they're limiting their client's success. So, yeah, always looking for opportunities to either help them find the resource, whether it's internal or external, or if the coaching goes to an area that there really is no expertise there, and expertise is required, then refer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in coaching, I don't need to be the expert.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's my ability to pull out their expertise to make them a better problem solver versus me solving the problem for them.
And maybe you just were the outside perspective, noticing certain things and pointing it out, and it's right there in front of them, but they couldn't see it because they're in the midst of their situation.
Right. Actually, probably half the power of coaching is just the fact that this person is setting aside the specific time frame to step out of the day-to-day, the rat race, the busyness, and just reflect on themselves, where their career's going, where their group's going, whatever it is, in just creating that sacred space of thinking. Because sometimes I'll just ask questions. I won't even give advice. And they'll say things, and I'm like, well, as you just said that out loud, what do you think? And they're like, oh, that's a terrible idea. I'm not going to do that. Or they'll say, that's a pretty brilliant idea, and I'm going to do that. So there's just something about creating that sacred space for someone to really reflect, think strategically, versus get caught up in the day-to-day. That's very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just kind of like in sales. It's like people don't really want to be pushed or sold, but if you guide them and they come to the conclusion on their own, then it's like they take ownership. Well, if you walked in and said, do this, and do the other, they feel like, wow, what was your name again, and where should we start? But if you just guide them and they come to the realization that certain actions need to happen, now it probably is going to get implemented because it was them making the decision, but you just guided the process.
Yeah, we actually, we have a course on coaching skills we teach, and one of my favorite sayings is from Socrates: people don't destroy what they create.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Don't destroy what they create. If they say, well, it wasn't me, it was Socrates, but we'll give him credit. This idea that if I say, you can destroy what I say all day, but if I can get a coachee to say it, they're not going to blow that up. And so, that coaching is really at its best when it's not me granting them my expertise, but I'm pulling out theirs and helping them see, wow, this is what I'm capable of doing. That's my favorite part of coaching.
Well, and the other thing is, and this is really popular in entrepreneurship and branding, but it's the who's the hero in the situation. It shouldn't be Dr. Tim. Great book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, talks about, that client, your client is the hero, you're the guide. And if you walked in acting like and treating them like you're the hero, then they just feel like, oh, well, but if they're the hero, then that Socrates quote really kicks in.
No, I'm with you. If you walk away from coaching engagement and they think you're the hero, I think something's gone wrong with that engagement.
Yep. Well, let's wrap up, Dr. Tim. And what's the best way that someone could reach out and learn more about your programs, your workshops, your coaching, and maybe pick up a copy of your book or listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so obviously our website would be a great place, advantagecoaching.com. I've written or co-written about 12 books, so if you go on Amazon and just search Ursiny, Ursiny, I think I'm the only one that should pop up.
I would think so. We're pretty close.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful chatting with you today. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes.
All right, very good.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.